In the first video, of course, we showed you the easy side, which would be the driver's side. On the passenger side, I've already taken the time to remove an object out of our way of number one cylinder, and that was this brace. I hope it shows up in the video. So you can see tucked away in there, number one injector. But this one has an extension on it, and I could not find any reference to that extension in the service manual. I went online to the Ford forum for this year's trucks, and very quickly someone answered me that, oh, it's just an extension. So we're going to crack that one loose. And as you'll see, when I said in the other video, you'll get to use all the tools in your toolbox, I wasn't lying. So there is a 5/8 crow's foot line wrench on a 1/2-inch drive extension to crack that one loose. As I showed you a few seconds ago, this is where I moved the bracket out of the way, or I would have never been able to get to here. Slow and steady wins the race on these ones. Okay, what's slightly different here on this side is we're going to remove this hose. On the driver's side, I just cut the hoses. But I am concerned about routing this hose back through underneath the glow plug controller, so I may reuse this hose. We'll see. The rear fuel return line, which you can see in the lower left corner of the picture, routes itself down underneath the glow plug controller at the back there, the black box with the vent holes in the top of it. And then it goes over to a three-way mount, input from the passenger side, input from the driver's side, and a feedback to the gas tank. That's in a terribly awkward place, so I'm going to remove the two manifold bolts. You can see the one bolt I've already extracted there to allow me to manipulate that mount plate. Another important thing is we're going to put a little piece of string on it, so when we pull the hose through, it'll be easier to route the new hose back underneath that glow plug controller. Alright, let's see how we did here. Okay, we're fine. So this is what I'm talking about. I'll just try and gently hold this up. Is right there to get that apart, put the new hose on, and then fish this back through. I needed this kind of play. We'll save these parts. All our fuel lines are removed and loose, so we're back over this side in a very awkward position, and here we go again, getting these caps loose. So get some wiggling going here. They're certainly, oh, there we go. Wasn't so bad at all. I must have even hold my lip in the right place, or my tongue. Okay. Well, let's fish that out of there. Now, as I mentioned this before, but I'm just going to point this out again. I've attached a piece of whipping cord to one end of that hose, and after disconnecting the line that goes back to the tank, removing the two manifold bolts here, I can now fish this, and you'll see just how snug it is to get through there. And of course, look what else I found on the way out. So now at least I can measure this line safely, figure out, and I've got a way to pull it back through, or fish it back through when I put the new one in. Next up, we have removal of the old O-rings. We've got two of them here. I hope they show up in the video. They might be, if it's far enough zoomed out, you might be able to see them on this back one. So these old ones have to go. Simplest way to do that is with a little hook tool. Now don't forget, I'm not trying to save these. They're all being replaced. We can just flip them off. Okay, and this of course was the bad cylinder. And there we go, I broke that one. And they're that easy to get rid of. Don't need to bore you with removing the rest of these O-rings, but you can get the idea of just how simple it is with the right tool. And I showed how we snap the O-rings off each injector. But there's some dirt and grime, and plus what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a 5/64 piece of wire down inside that injector tube to block it. And in that way I can busy myself here cleaning without fear that I'm going to put anything down inside. I'll be able to blow with my air safely. In the previous photo, I showed you some of the tools we're going to use to get this stuff nice and clean, but now that I'm safe about nothing getting down inside the injectors, I'm going to use some good old brake clean here just to get rid of the last remnants of the diesel fuel that we've been spilling. Let me give these a soak. Now the O-rings are already removed on this side, remember. Don't forget to clean these caps really well so that when you go back to put things together and you turn them, you don't end up knocking any bits of rust or paint down inside. So now with a little more cleaner and our wire brush, we are just going to gently, now don't forget, this is not a hard steel brush. This is a nice soft brass brush so that it will not scratch or do any damage to any of these. And it doesn't take much. I'll have a close look at them afterwards before we put them together. But as I said before, these were actually in very good shape. Okay, that's looking very nice. One down, 7 more to go. We are back in the shop. This passenger side was a little more difficult to get off, as you saw in the video. But it all came apart. I was quite surprised at how easily it came apart. And the other thing we noted, of course, was on this #1 cylinder, there was an extension. Now I posted a video of this and some pictures on a couple of the forums and received an answer that it's an extension to facilitate some type of electronic timing adapter. And they said, for goodness sakes, don't damage it, don't lose it, because you probably won't be able to replace it. So I will be very careful with it, and I will clean it up slightly, and we will make sure when we put it back together we don't break anything. So we're off. Now in the last video as well, you remembered when I was putting it together, I had this lovely habit. I put those two together backwards. We won't make that mistake again. And I'm not going to bore you with going through everything here, other than to say that we'll just check our measurements again. I, good old Canadians, still like using metric. That's a perfect 10 centimeters. That's a perfect 10 centimeters. And that one there is only 9.5 at best. So we're going to move along with that, build our new assembly, save the excess hose, and we're going to show how we're going to loop this rear hose back over to the other side, the one that fits underneath the glow plug controller. Okay, let's get at it, and we'll see you back out on the truck after this is made. The belly pan of our intake manifold was pretty full of diesel fuel, along with years of grease and grime. So that's been nicely cleaned, and I've left rags stuffed along each of the injectors, because when we put things together they will have to be bled before we start the engine. Next in line is putting the O-rings on our injectors. This is just Vaseline. Lots of the folks use transmission fluid or diesel fuel itself. I like Vaseline just because it sticks, it cleans up easily, it does no harm to anything. So here's my first O-ring. And again, having these little wires on here just make things that much easier. Now the first O-ring goes on really easy like that. Slip right over. Second one can be a little more difficult. But if any of you have watched YouTube videos on O-rings, you've probably already seen this. Using a small looped piece of string through the center of the O-ring. Ooh, my hands are gooey here. We can greatly assist. So I'm going to take this string and I'm just going to loop it down, slide it into the groove where we want our second O-ring to go. Ooh, and we're going to slip our O-ring over. Going to get it started. Now when I pull the string, you'll see I stretch the O-ring and I make it very easy to peel it over and done. And there you go. We are done. Just like that. So it's a bit of magic, but it works really well, especially for tight spots. O-rings are complete on both sides. So we have our new fuel rail. Everything is nicely lubricated. We are going to pull out our little special, don't let any dirt go down the injector wires. And we're going to slip things, whoops, need to put it on the right way. We will begin slipping the new one over. And I've left all the clamps loose, so if we need to stretch the hose just a hair on any one of these, we can. Okay, everything looks good. That was our leaker we're concerned with. I showed earlier the little bit of damage that we could see on it. Alright, they look very nice. Wasn't that easy? Now, putting our lines on without our clamps, we should be able to hand tighten these nicely. So much easier putting things together when they're clean. I didn't show you, but this line number 8 at the back here, I had to put some tension on it and move it this way so that it just was off straight up and down. Now maybe when I was taking the braces apart, maybe I bent it a little bit out of alignment, can't say. So for this point here, we're going to snug these up and then back them off just slightly. The reason being is we're going to have to bleed them all. So down we go, hence why I've got all my paper towel already situated. But since things are all nicely lined up, we can do up our clamps now, slide them into place. I'll be ready to pull that line through from the other side. So we're making good progress. Good. If you remember from earlier on in our videos, I had connected a piece of string to go through to help fish this rear fuel line through underneath. So I'm just going to gently start that process, and with a little bit of pulling here and a little help, hopefully we can get the line. There we go. And it's a little bit of protective sleeve there, and that fished through underneath. So there we go. That wasn't too bad. Another trick of the trade.